Hello. Yes, I've broken my glasses and now I've got to wear these. Make me look like brains from Thunderbirds. Anyway, I've finished the starter video for you. It took 9 days because it was quite cold, so it wouldn't ferment properly. Yeah, so it was a bit of a nightmare. Here it is. I'm going to zip through this just for both of our sakes. Start off with 1/3 cup of water and mix in 1/2 cup of plain flour. Just using plain flour for now. We'll mix flours later. We'll mix it with rye later on because, well, I'll explain why later. But for now, we're just mixing these in and leaving it for 24 hours. Nothing much happens. Yeah, some people put an elastic band around it. It's too early for that. Just get rid of it. Okay, well that's 24 hours done. Just give it a bit of a mix. Nothing much has happened in that time. And put it aside for another 24 hours. And in that time, we'll make a mix of the flour that we will use. It'll be a mix of rye flour and plain flour. Rye flour's got more wild yeast on the grain than plain flour, so you have 50-50 sort of mix of that. We'll be using that from now on for this starter. And mix them together. Yeah, rye flour, plain flour, and mix them together. Okay, so you'll get 1/2 cup of the flour mix you've just made, and put that in with your sourdough starter mix, and 1/3 cup of water, and mix them together. Okay, so 12 hours goes by, and you'll just, the clip just went flying. Retrieve the clip. Yes, you'll just be adding a couple of tablespoons of the flour mix, and you'll mix that in with just shy of 2 tablespoons of water. You don't want to put too much water in because it just gets sloppy. So about 1.5, 1 2/3 of a cup of, of 8 tablespoons of water, and mix them in. And that is the end of day 3. Okay, it's the morning of day 4 and we have some activity. Okay, I'm not sure if you heard that, but it popped, meaning that there's gas being made, and you can see the gas in the bubbles there. That's the morning of day 4. It might happen on your 2nd or 3rd day, it might happen on your 5th or 6th day, but this is a sign that it's fermenting and it's working. So let's get rid of some of it because the jar's getting too full. There's plenty of recipes online for what to do with discarded sourdough starter, like pancakes and things. We're not going to worry with that. That's something for another time. Here we're just going to take out 3 big fat tablespoons of starter and putting it in a fresh jar, and add in 1/3 cup of water. And of course you'll want to add 1/2 cup of flour, the flour mix that you made of the rye and the plain flour. So 1/2 cup of that, 1/3 cup of water, mix it together. And then label it and put it aside. Now it'll be put aside for another 12 hours. So in the evening of that day, you'll put in 2 tablespoons of flour and just under 2 tablespoons of water. Mix it in and put it aside again until the next morning. Just keep repeating these activities for the next few days. It's, every morning throw some out, keep 3 tablespoons. Oh, look at that. See, this is starting to ferment. It'll probably be a bit smelly. Yep. Yes, every morning take out 3 heaped tablespoons. It's quite liquidy by this stage. And you'll be adding 1/3 cup of water and 1/2 cup of flour every morning, and mix it in. Now at this stage, just for the hell of it, you can start putting an elastic band around it. You put it to the top of your sourdough, and by the next morning or the next shift, you might start seeing a bit of a rise, and the rubber band is just there to mark where it was, so you can see the progress basically. Okay, we did nothing different for the next few days, so I zipped ahead to, I think this is day 8, and I had the camera upside down, which is really professional. Yeah, so you can see a little bit of activity there, and we do the same thing every day, and every morning, every night, do the same things. So here's discard, keep 3 heaped tablespoons of the starter, add 1/3 cup of water, 1/2 cup of flour. That's the morning. And in the evening, do the 2 tablespoons of flour into the starter with just under 2 tablespoons of water. Oh, so I had an assistant for this part, so you can see up close what I'm doing. Scratches on the back of my wrist from when I wrestle with the cat. Okay, so a couple of tablespoons of water, a couple of tablespoons of flour and mixed in. You can see it up close. You don't really learn that much more from seeing it up close, I've realised, so there you go. Alright, so there's a bit of activity, that's good. I think I'm about to do the float test here. And, I'm going to leave that in just to embarrass myself and to remind myself never to do that again. That was terrible. Anyway, it's the float test. So you gently get a teaspoon of your sourdough starter and put in a tub of room temperature water, and if it floats, which it is, it's ready to go, and that's always good news. Well, that was a complete nightmare. Took a bit longer than expected because it's quite cold, and overnight we don't have the heater on in the house, so it gets down pretty cold. So that's why it took 9 days. Well, the 9th day it was ready. So now I'm going to show you how to make the poolish, which is a way of extending the starter. No hard and fast rules for this. It's pretty easy again, as most of the things I do are. So I've got, that's probably enough. For one loaf you'd need, say, 100 ml of 100 grams of starter. And this would be 100 grams. But for the sake of this tutorial, I'll show you how to make it. So we don't need all of that. I reckon just a few tablespoons would cover it. So I'll put in, I normally don't even have this much starter in my jar when I start making it anyway. So there's about 3 tablespoons here. Oops. There. There are about 3 tablespoons in there. There's about 50-ish grams of flour, followed by, about a third of a cup of water, which is about, you do the maths. That's pretty much all you need, really, and you mix it up. Okay, we will put this aside for a couple of hours and see how it goes. Okay, so we have our poolish. There's a couple of 100 grams there, it's way too much. I'm only going to do 1 loaf out of this. So we need 100 grams. Around about. And that is about it. That leftover I will use to make some starter with. Now, with the water, I'm actually using whey from a batch of yogurt that I made because it comes out really well. I've got 300 grams of that in here. My salt is about, having a little bit extra salty in this one. That's 15 grams of salt there. Of plain river salt crystals I've ground up. There's no iodine added or no caking agents, so that's good. We don't want all those additives. And that is in. Mix that up. And 450 grams of flour. Now I've shown you how to do all of this on other videos, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I just wanted to show you how to make the poolish and how to use it. So as you can see, it's quite easy. Just get the starter, a few tablespoons of that with 50 grams roundabout of flour, 50 grams of water mixed together. I always make more than I need to, because it's always good having extra in case you make a mistake as well. You can just use whatever's left over and modify it. And there you have it. I will take a photo of this when it's done and put it up so that you can see what it's like made with whey instead of water. It's a really good additive to it. Okay, I'll see you soon.